what we see now, how this whole original idea is mistreated. So I always explain we are not less European. They are talking about democracy, but they cannot accept that democratically elected members can have a say. And if the say is different to the mainstream ideas, then they simply cannot accept it.
The European Parliament has long been a laboratory for all of the worst kinds of European policies. From green ideology to the environment, from trans ideology, and of course all of the corruption and NGO activity, it's been the place where bad policies are followed by bad political parties. But in 2024, something happened which changed the political game. Featuring politicians from the political parties of Matteo Salvini, Viktor Orbán, Geert Wilders and more, the Patriots for Europe quickly became the third largest force in the European Parliament. Now, of course, this group in the European Parliament has been branded far-right, fascist, all of the usual accusations, but the reality is it has changed the game in Brussels and beyond. In fact, right across Europe, election after election shows the turn towards patriotic political candidates. To better understand how this new political force is reshaping politics here in Brussels and beyond, I sat down with Kinga Gál MEP. Kinga is Vice President of Fidesz. She's also Vice President of the Patriots for Europe group in the European Parliament. She's been instrumental in turning the Patriots for Europe and the Patriots for Europe political party into one of the most important forces reshaping European politics. So Kinga, thanks so much for joining us. We wanted to have this conversation for a long time, and just, by way of situating this conversation, could you take us back to 2024? There was this major European parliamentary election that actually really caught a lot of people's interest because of the result, and most people, even European politicos, aren't that interested in European parliamentary elections. But this one was really different and it changed something. So what changed in that election in 2024?
Well, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for being able to explain and talk about the big change, what the establishment of the Patriots for Europe group and then the party brought into the European agenda, in the European political life. So first of all, as you asked, it's right. After the elections, actually the elections, the European elections, brought a very clear message from the voters that they want change. And there are many issues which were wrongly handled by the European elite, by the bureaucrats, by the Commission. And they want change on these issues. First of all, it's migration, the illegal migration, the whole migration pact, how it's handled, what the consequences in Europe that has on our security, on our everyday lives. Then the Green Deal, the whole idea of pushing through such a Green Deal, how we call it dark Green Deal, which actually puts in a very difficult situation our enterprises, our farmers, endangers their everyday income, actually, if you look at what's going on with our farmers and with agriculture. The whole stereotypes what's going on to promote what we see for 2 years then promoting the whole war instead peace idea, the whole structure of bureaucracy, getting away sovereignty. So the people were very clear that they want change. And the results show this. That's why those parties could win, could become stronger in the member states, which at the end were really saying that we need change. And these parties were on the conservative right side. So after the elections, we gathered and we were thinking that there is a momentum, and the momentum has to be taken. And as we know, Prime Minister Orbán, when there is a momentum, he will take that momentum. And that was when it was decided by 3 party leaders Viktor Orbán from Fidesz, Andrej Babiš from ANO in the Czech Republic, and Herbert Kickl in Austria, FPÖ, that they will sign a political manifesto. And in this political manifesto, we will react on the will of the people, the will expressed during the elections. And in this manifesto, everything is included, which is showing the alternative to what has been wrongly pursued, done the previous years by the European political elite and by the Commission, by the Brussels bureaucracy. Everything started with the signature adoption by the three leaders of this Patriots manifesto, which has been done in Vienna. And then after that, many started to join our manifesto. So this became the basic document of our and the basic program for the Patriot group. And very soon we got to 14 parties from 13 member states and amounting by now 85 members of the European Parliament. So very soon, when by the time at beginning of July, the Parliament established itself officially, we had the third largest group in the European Parliament. And it was a good surprise on the conservative right side, and it was a shock for the others, because our opponents couldn't believe that this could happen, that there is such a force created, and that's why they are fighting us each day since we are established.
Europe is at a crossroads. The choices we make in the next few years will decide whether our continent continues to decline or rediscovers its courage. That's why this December 3rd and 4th, some of the most daring thinkers, leaders and patriots are coming together in Brussels to forge a new path for Europe, one built on serenity, industry and freedom. Join us in Brussels, at the heart of the European Union, for the battle for the soul of Europe, the most significant, conservative, intellectual event of the year. Be part of the conversation that will shape Europe's future. Join us in the fight.
Yeah, I want to come into the reaction on the kind of other side of the aisle to the Patriots in a moment, but just to kind of hammer the point for our viewers that, I mean, in European politics, European parliamentary politics, there have been various coalition groups and platforms for a kind of actually conservative, like genuinely right-wing patriotic forces. But this was the first time that really a genuinely wide platform was adopted. What do you think was different this time that allowed the Patriots to move into the kind of leading position on the right that they have compared to other groups that had existed before?
We have a common agenda. The agenda is clear that there is a wrong migration policy, which has to be changed. There is a wrong policy towards farmers, enterprises, businesses, small, big. It is a wrong way how subsidiarity is and how sovereignty is perceived. And with this common agenda, we can change. Plus, you have to know that it's good that, as we say all the time and underline all the time, these are sovereignist parties. And sovereignist parties don't have to agree in everything. There is always the national interest, the interest of the own people, which has to be taken into account. So we agree in very important and basic issues, but we don't say that we have to agree in everything. This is different to the others on the political palette of the European Parliament or the whole political landscape that we have in Europe. Plus, what is getting weaker and weaker in the European politics, the respect. It's the respect of the views, of the voices, the differing voices. This is disappearing. And in our group, this is what is very clearly present. And now we are after our third study days, where the group comes together not only in parliamentary terms, but also cultural program coming together. And it's the third time. We had it a few weeks ago in Madrid, the third big study days for the group. It was made again clear that people being members of the European Parliament, working in this group, they like to be there. They feel, after 1 year now, more than 1 year now, that this is the place where, I think, the only place, only political group where you can express freely your views. You can express freely your views also talking, debating in the plenary. Nobody will say anything if you say this or that, because there are group rules, or because you should take into account anything else. So this freedom, it's keeping together this group. It's very strong feeling, and what we see by now, after 1 year, that it helps to give very good work. So if you follow what the Patriots are doing with the different files, with the political issues, they are very good. And the issues which we raise are really the issues which the people are interested in. Yeah. So it's echoing what our electors want to hear.
Yeah, I think it's actually important for our viewers to really understand this, because so much of the time in Brussels, you have MEPs come together from different countries, and they come to their meetings, but otherwise lead very, very separate lives. And one of the things that everybody notes about the Patriots group is that there's a genuine sense of kind of comradeship among the different MEPs from different countries that give it kind of, maybe ironically, a genuine kind of pan-European feeling among these MEPs compared to what happens elsewhere. But I wanted to, we mentioned earlier the reaction to the Patriots group, and I wondered if you could say a little bit, because the signal feature since the establishment of the Patriots group, which has been a big success, has been the hardening, or the attempt to harden, the so-called Cordon sanitaire, the firewall against patriotic populist forces. Could you say a little bit about this reaction in terms of the Cordon sanitaire?
Yes, as I mentioned before, the shock on the side of the opponents was so harsh. They thought endangered somehow their political aims, that they started to do backdoor alliances. Actually, I think the most responsible in this, it's actually the largest political group, the European People's Party's group, because they promise different things to the voters. They are talking about totally different messages, political messages towards the voters, their electorate, and then they are doing the different, totally different thing behind the doors, and in keeping up the status quo, and actually being responsible that nothing changes really, just having a very nice paint on everything, but not changing effectively those mistakes which has been done for the previous years. And because of the EPP, can this cordon sanitaire survive? That can happen, that those who always are talking about rule of law are themselves who are day by day over stepping the rules established together, or even established by themselves. So they are talking about democracy, but they cannot cannot accept that democratically elected members can have a say. And if the say is different to the mainstream ideas, then they simply cannot accept it. So what's the answer? Close them out. That's their answer. And close them out from positions, close them out from decision-taking. It's happening day by day. When with the deregulation laws, for example, the so-called omnibus laws, where there is an initiative to try to put back on a right track the interests of businesses, of entrepreneurs, and come back to the normality, they take our views and they paint them into their own and distantiate themselves from us at the end. Or make a very last moment backdoor agreements with the left and the liberals, just not to admit that what we are saying and what we are doing, it's right. And I think this can survive only because the EPP is playing this very, very nasty game.
Yeah, this is something we touch on a lot on our podcast and on our YouTube videos, is about we expect our opponents to be the left, the Greens, the socialists, whatever. That we can expect. But actually the most kind of corrosive and dangerous enemy that genuinely patriotic forces face is these parties that claim to represent right-wing voters, but at every opportunity do the opposite. They always push for more regulation, more Green Deal, less action on migration. And that's
Exactly. And they feel that they are endangered by the right. Although, if they would keep their promises, there would be a conservative right-wing majority in the European Parliament since 2024. And it would have made a huge change in all those issues which are so important for the voters. And we could have kept our promises. And that's why I say repeatedly that the responsibility is huge, what the EPP did in these years, how they betrayed their own voters, and how we cannot do big changes because of them.
Yeah. And so despite the kind of blocking role that the EPP effectively plays in the parliament, it's still the case that the attempt at the Cordon sanitaire hasn't been completely successful, and it's a testament to the hard work of the Patriots group and the great interventions on MEPs that actually on a number of issues, whether, as you mentioned, omnibus, we talk about the role of NGOs, we talk about action on migration, already this Cordon sanitaire is beginning to break down. Could you explain how that's actually happening in the parliament? People might know about the so-called Venezuela coalition and stuff, but could you explain a bit about the possibility of the Cordon sanitaire really breaking down?
Well, it's always case by case, and it's very difficult to break it down. We have the natural allies, the conservatives and the sovereignists next to the Patriots. Yeah. And if you add up, you always need at least part of EPP to be able to break this. And where their interest, EPP interest is there, then it's a possibility to break this. Where they seek alliance with the left and the liberals because of the mainstream wish for acceptance from themselves, to be perceived as the nice guys, then it's very difficult. It's very interesting to hear always that while they are the European forces, why? Why they? Why them? Why not us? It's the same, equally European. It's a different vision, but it's getting back to how the founding fathers of the European Union perceived the whole union. And now what we see now, how this whole original idea is mistreated. So I always explain we are not less European or not less attached to important values. So don't put these labels. But we are always labeled as far right. Why far? Have you ever heard about the far left? No. In this European mainstream political wordings or discussions, the left is always the middle and the right is always the far. No, yeah. And it's impossible to get back on the right track, and it's also the impossibility of how disrespect is presented, showed in the debates in the European Parliament or in the work in the different committees in the European Parliament. That's what I found astonishing and unacceptable. And we underline this time always. That is why we initiated court proceedings against the European Parliament because of the Cordon sanitaire. So if you preach rule of law, then let's see, how do you keep your own rules? Mm-hmm. And the court proceedings are going on, so let's see what will be the decision. So we are fighting. We are big fighters. That's why we are fighting the Commission. That's why we said, no way that we don't initiate a motion of censure if the time comes and it's the case, and we did. We knew that it won't be successful, but to show the Commission is the problem in itself by now. For many of the issues which are problematic in Europe, it was worse to initiate, for example, a motion of censure.
Yeah. And if we could just go a bit broader than the European Parliament now, I really liked when there must have been very long conversations about what to call the group, the new group. And I really think that calling it the Patriots group was a real success. It's allowed this discourse in European politics of patriotism to kind of re-emerge. And I think that even that itself has had a big effect on lots of elections. You see people referring to themselves proudly, much more proudly now, as patriots. And so do you see that the Patriots for Europe group, the Patriots for Europe party, but this broader movement to patriotic political forces is very much gaining steam, and that we can see in the future not just success in the European Parliament, but maybe a different majority in the Council, and just everywhere in European politics, it seems like this is the kind of patriotic political moment.
Yes, absolutely. What we are actually saying, that the Patriots for Europe group and the party is just the means and possibility that our parties, those forces in Europe who stand on the same ideas, should win elections. And that's our main and most important task, to help to win elections in the member states, those forces, those patriotic forces who can really change at the end the whole political landscape. And the messages and the solutions, they can give good solutions for Europe. So for us, it's fantastic that in the Czech Republic, the patriotic sovereignist ANO with Andrej Babiš now won the elections, and there will be we will give another prime minister. And we hoping very much that sooner than later, France will also have a different government and president. Because what's happening in France, this is unbelievable. That a founding big country to be at the very lowest point in the European politics, and what's going on there, it's terrible. And we believe that this change will come when in France there will be a patriotic government and president, following the patriotic ideas, principles.
And looking ahead a little bit, looking to the future, it's still the case that the genuine right is kind of fragmented still. So in the European Parliament, you have 3 groups, and depending on how you count part of the EPP, maybe even a 4th mini group, that it's still a little bit fragmented. Do you see the possibility in the future of less fragmentation on the right? And if so, what are the kind of key causes we need to push to unite the right a bit more?
I think the most important thing that when it comes to important votes, it should not be a fragmentation. And what I see now, of course, EPP is a different issue for the time being. But on the other all other forces, when it comes to really key important votes, these voting behavior is very similar. So this is the most important thing. And whether we are in different groups or one group, this is not the main issue. The main issue is that what message we send through our votes. And there we found a cooperation, similarities, and following the same agenda. And I think that's important.
Great. And then one final question is, what are the big kind of opportunities or the big problems, as it were, in parliamentary life that you're going to be working on in the next few weeks and months? We talked about this omnibus bill, which could be one of the first major blows against the Green Deal. We might be able to undo a little bit, but what other opportunities are you seeing?
Actually,
in the
near future? Green Deal, the emission issues, they will come in, and we have an excellent rapporteur for this. That's what we achieved. That the Patriots will are giving. It's actually already there. Our Czech colleague dealing with the big issues of the Green Deal. So there we will have a say. Also, I hope so, and there will be clear messages also. Mm-hmm. And then when we come back to the migration files, it will be a clear point from our side. Very good expert, very, efficient members of the European Parliament from our side, from the Patriots, where we will have, I'm sure, on the right wing of this Parliament, a consensus to vote together. So I think that the work which will come in the upcoming years, we have still years until the next elections in 2029. We have possibilities to build up good, solid positions on those issues which are really relevant for our people and for our voters.
Yeah, it's very much true. I think our viewers will know already we've had Patriots MEPs who can talk and expose the EU's work on restricting free speech, what's going on with migration. We've got big work coming up on the Democracy Shield and stuff. So it's very much the case that Patriots MEPs are fighting the good fight within the European Parliament, and we're delighted that you're very much a key part of that, Kinga. So thanks so much for coming on. It was delightful to speak to you.
Thank you very much for inviting me.